So, good morning everyone, my name is Lalit Soni and you are watching Drishti IAS. In this live session, as usual, we will be discussing Indian Express newspaper. We will start with the practice question and then we will move forward with the important articles of the day. This is the front page. Here, from here we have taken this article, on the armed forces table, let double the Agniveers stay back, train them longer. Okay, so basically recently there was this scheme, Agnipath scheme, which has been in news after the elections. Okay, because there are some allied parties which are demanding a review of this scheme. Okay, right now these are just proposals, these are not nothing concrete, so we will not go into the details of it. We will just talk about the Agnipath and surrounding areas. Okay, other than that, these news are as of now not important for us. Okay, so we will be talking about a dip in the industrial production. So you must have heard about the IIP, index of industrial production, so we will talk about that. Then we will go to the eco sensitive zones. We will be talking about Western Ghats over here. You know that when we are talking about Western Ghats, there are nearly 6 states which are involved in the, you can say, geographically expanse of Western Ghats is present over there. So we will be talking about those states. We will see that why some of the states are saying that the expanse of these eco sensitive zones in Western Ghats should be shrunken. Okay, then who are Satnamis? Okay, you must have heard about the people like Kabir. You must have heard about people like Guru Ghasidas. So these people are basically have a relation with the Satnamis. Okay, so we will be talking about that, and then for your own read there will be 2 articles, and then last will be your practice question. So let's start with the discussion. Before that, we will see the practice question. Which of the following country does not share a border with Malawi? Okay, yesterday we have talked about Malawi. There was this plane crash and wherein vice president of Malawi and 9 other people were died. So basically here you can say this is the expanse of Malawi over here. When we are talking about Malawi, it is in African continent. Okay, and here you can see there is this lake. This lake is known as Lake Malawi. When we are talking about the bordering countries, here you can say one is Zambia, Tanzania and Mozambique. Okay, so these are the countries which are having a border with Malawi. So here you can see Zambia, Tanzania and Mozambique. Congo is not here. Congo is somewhere you can say little bit of west, or you can say northwest of these particular countries. Okay, so that is about it. Option D would be a right answer, that is Congo. Okay, now moving further, let's start with the first article, which is related to the Agnipath scheme. Also, there are people who call it Agniveer scheme because those people who are joining it, these are called Agniveer. Okay, so on armed forces table, let double the Agniveers stay back, train them longer. When they are saying that let double the stay back, because when we are talking about the total recruit in the Agnipath scheme, only 25% of them will be retained for the further service. Okay, so that is why there was this concern that what will happen to the fate of next, other 75% of the recruits which were there. As I told you, this Agnipath scheme has already been discussed in news. So that is why you must know that these are the recruits which are basically on the basis of contract, and that contract will be of 4 years. Okay, and after 4 years, these 25% will be retained back and others will be going to the mainstream, or you can say civil societies. Okay, so now because of which there were certain concerns, we will be talking about that. Now what is the news? The armed forces are discussing possible tweaks to the Agnipath scheme for military recruitment, including change in the retention percentage of Agniveer from current 25% to increase their training period. Okay, so there are 2 things they are saying. That first, we can go for the increase in the training period. So when they are going for the further commission, so you don't have to spend extra for the training. So that is one thing. So you can increase the training time. Second thing is you will increase the retention. They are talking about nearly doubling it to the, you can say, 60 to 70% somewhere. Okay, but again, these are not formal recommendations yet. Okay, these are just internal talks in the armed forces. Okay, so we will not go into much details of it, because as until unless government accept the recommendations, government make a change in the recommendation, these things are not very much important for us. Okay, now coming to the Agnipath scheme, here you can see. So here a person who is having a age of 17 and half to 21 years, they will be selected for this scheme, and they will be here for 4 years contract. Okay, so they will be in the services for 4 years on the contract, and on the retirement, on the end of the contract, you will be getting a Seva Nidhi. Okay, that is Seva Nidhi package will be given, that is nearly 11.71 lakh rupees. Okay, other than that, you will be getting salary. First package or first year's package will be 0.76 lakhs, and then further it will increase up to 6.92 lakhs. Okay. So at the release, or when we are talking about the, you can say when you are leaving the services, at that point of time nearly 11.71 lakh rupees will be given to you. Okay. And there will be a non-contributory insurance cover of 48 lakh. In case something happens to you on the service, then there will be a insurance cover of 48 lakhs. Okay. In at the end, you will be getting a Agniveer skill certificate and assist in the post release job opportunities will be there. So when we are talking about the special forces like CAPF, when we are talking about the Assam Rifles, in those services preference will be given to these people. Okay. Now this is about the scheme. Now what are the things which are wrong with the scheme, we will see. Before that, here you can see it was introduced in June 2022 by the government. Okay. And recruitment is on contractual basis. It is a short term service, post service civil integration. Those people who are not retained back, they will be going back to the mainstream societies. Okay. So that is basically post service civil integration. Financial package up to upon completion, that is basically your Seva Nidhi, we have already talked about. Okay. What are the concerns or the issues related to it? First is limited retention. As I told you, only 25% will be retained. So what will happen to the fate of remaining 75%? Okay. So that is one thing. Concerns over the job security, since it is a temporary or 4 years contract basis information recruitment. So that is why we can say that there are concerns related to the job security. No pension or gratuity, because when we are talking about the government services, most of the time you will see after your service you will be getting a pension, okay, or gratuity. So in this case there is no pension, no gratuity. Okay. And short service period, that is 4 years. So these are the concerns, and now government is trying, or government has decided to actually talk about these concerns and go for changes. Okay. So now armed forces are basically talking about it first, then they will recommend it to the government. Okay. Now moving further, next article is basically related to your special category status to the states. Okay. Why Bihar, Andhra are unlikely to get special status package instead. Okay. When we are talking about this special category status, it was actually discontinued by the 14th Finance Commission. Okay. So 14th Finance Commission, they have actually discontinued special category status, and that is why there are chances that these states which are demanding for, you can say, special category status, Andhra, Bihar, Odisha, these are the states which are demanding for it, and now they are having a say in the coalition government, because obviously both the parties like JDU and Telugu Desam party, they are part of the government now, coalition government. So that is why there are chances that they will put forward their demands. Okay. And here we are discussing that they might not get the special status, but they can get package instead, or you can say a financial assistance over here. Okay. One of the biggest benefit for states classified as a special category earlier was that 90% of the funds under centrally sponsored schemes were contributed by the center. Okay. When we are talking about the other state, nearly 60 to, you can say, 75% was contributed by center, and rest was to be given by the states in the centrally sponsored schemes. Okay. But when we are talking about the special category status, and in this particular case 90% contribution will be given by the center and 10% will be given by the states. Okay. So that is another case. Now when we are talking about this particular thing over here, why they might not get it, because obviously Finance Commission, 14th Finance Commission has actually scrapped this idea. Okay. Here you can say, if not special category status, the BJP led government may be willing to allocate extra funds to the state for specific projects. Okay. For example, it may extend more loans to build Andhra's capital, or even plan central project in Amravati. Okay. So basically this is the news. Now coming to the what is special category status, we will see why it is important. Okay. Now here you can see, special category status is a classification given by center to assist development of the states to face geographical and socio-economic disadvantage. Earlier, when we actually when we are talking about the origin of this special category status, the fifth Finance Commission 1969, they have come up with the idea of special category status. At that point of time, the objective was to give extra attention or the extra financial aid to those states which are socially, economically and geographically backward. Okay. So if their geography is not very you can say favorable for the development, in that case, otherwise also if they are socially and economically backward, then they will be given extra attention, extra financial aid. Okay. So here you can see, the constitution does not make a provision for special category status. Obviously it is not there in the constitution because it came afterwards in 1969 with the recommendation of the 5th Finance Commission. Okay. Now, 5th Finance Commission actually recommended it. First state was Jammu and Kashmir and Nagaland. They were actually added to the or given the special category status, and afterwards nearly 11 states were there when we are talking about the special category status. Okay. But then 14th Finance Commission came and they have scrapped the system. The system was scrapped on the recommendations of the 14th Finance Commission, which suggested that the resource gap of the states should be filled by the increasing devolution of taxes. That is, when we are talking about the Finance Commission does a job, that is, they will divide the income of the government between center and the states, and they have said that we can fulfill the resource gap or whatever requirements are there by increasing the share from 32% to 42%. Okay, but we will let go of this special category status. Okay, but there are exceptions they have taken. Okay, so with the exceptions of the northeastern region and the 3 hill states. Okay, so when we are talking about the northeastern region, you know that there is 7 sisters. Okay, then plus Sikkim is there, that is northeastern region, plus there are 3 hill states. Okay, these hill states are basically here you can see, that is J&K, Uttarakhand and Himachal Pradesh. So these were the areas, these were the 11 places when we are talking about 7, 8, 9, 10 and 11. Okay, so these 11 states were retained their special category status, otherwise it was scrapped off. Okay, so that is about the special category status. What was the benefit? That they will get extra funds, as I told you, in the states you can say centrally sponsored scheme, 90% of the contribution was given by the center, and when we are talking about the funds, these funds which budgetary funds which they get, these funds are non-lapsable in case of special category status. Okay, so that is about the status. Now coming to the next part, that is there is a dip in the industrial production when we are talking about the IIP. This is the major index of industrial production, that is the measure which decides that how market is performing when we are talking about the production. Okay, so factory output growth at 5% in April, industrial production growth slips to 3 months low in April. Okay, now there are certain data given over here. This data is of no use for us. Okay, because they will never ask you this data. Okay, what is important for us is that we will see the trends over here. Okay, so index of industrial production moderates a 3-month low 5% in April due to the slower manufacturing growth. Okay, that is data which has been given by NSO, National Statistical Office. Okay, manufacturing, which accounts for 77% of the weight in the IIP. When we are talking about this IIP, it is having manufacturing. Okay, it is having a weightage of nearly 77%. Okay, so that is what we are talking about here. You can say it grew 3.9% in April, down from 5.5% in the year ago period. Okay, so when we are talking about 5.5%, this was 1 year ago, that was the case. Right now it is 3.9% in the April. Okay, and 1 month ago if we see, that was 5.8%. so there is a dip from 5.8% to 3.9% in a month, and then here you can see for 5.5 to 3.9 in a year. Okay, ultimately one thing is clear, that the manufacturing or the production process is in a dip. Okay, so that is there. Manufacturing and the mining growth. Okay, mining output growth accelerated to 6.7% in the April against 5.1% expansion in the year ago month. Okay, so here you can say that in the mining output, there was an increase. When we are talking about the manufacturing, there was a decrease. Okay, the manufacturing sector's growth deaccelerated to 3.9% in April compared to the 5.5% a year ago. So that is what you can remember as of now. Okay, factory output growth in March and February. Okay, so again these data are not important. What is important for us is that we should know that what is the contribution of manufacturing in the IIP, that is 77%. First thing. Second thing, which we know that the mining has given a better output than the manufacturing. Third is that when we are talking about the retail inflation, this is altogether a different topic over here, because when we are talking about the IIP, so that is a separate thing, and when we talk about the retail inflation, that is separate thing, because here we will be talking about the CPI, consumer price index, etc. So here they have said that retail inflation is to 1 year low in May. Okay, and why this has happened? Because of the prices of the kitchen accessories. When we are talking about those food related prices, okay, there was a dip in that, and because of which we are saying that there is a you can say low 1 year low in a you can say prices of, or you can say CPI index, okay, in the inflation. So these are something which data are given, which is not important. Now we will come to the IIP. That part will be important for you because they can ask you about the industrial production index. Okay, so we will talk about IIP. Okay, index of industrial production. IIP is an indicator that measures change in the volume of production. We are talking about here production here because this is a industrial productions index. So basically how market will be performing in the production. So that is the measure of that. So IIP is an indicator that the change in the volume of production of industrial products during a given period. So we have just seen that when we are talking about any index, when we are talking about any kind of indicator, that will be performing in a particular period. Okay, so that we can compare. Last time it was this much and now it is that much. Okay, so that is one thing. It is compiled and published monthly by National Statistical Office, that is NSO, Ministry of Statistics and Program Implementation. Okay, so please remember that, Ministry of Statistics and Program Implementation, and it is published by NSO. It is a composite indicator that measures growth rate of industry, and it is classified in various heads. One is broad sectors, namely mining, manufacturing, electricity, etc. Second is use based sectors, that are basic goods, capital goods and the intermediate goods. Okay, so that is about IIP. When we are talking about the any index, there is a base year from which they will be taking a reference to. Okay, so base year for industrial production, or you can say index of industrial production, is that 2011 to 2012. Okay, so that year 11-12 year is the base year over here. So that this much information is enough for your from IIP's point of view. Now moving further, we will go to the next article, which is talking about the few states are saying that there should be a decrease in, or you can say the area which is under the eco-sensitive zones in the Western Ghats, that should be shrunken, that should be decreased, so that we can go for the developmental activities. Okay, so first we will see what is the issue right now, and then we will come to the what is eco-sensitive zones. We will see, or either we will start with the eco-sensitive zones so that you can easily understand. Whenever we are talking about a protected area or a area of diversity or area which is quite sensitive, or the ecosystem which is quite sensitive over there, then it requires a special protection. Okay, so here land within the 10-kilometer boundaries of a national park and wildlife sanctuaries, these are the protected areas, are notified as eco-fragile zone or eco-sensitive zones. Okay, so that is 10 kilometers from the boundaries of national national parks and wildlife sanctuaries. Second is, while the 10-kilometer rule is implemented as a general principle, the extent of its application can vary, depends on the area where we are talking about. So 10-kilometer rule is a general rule, but there can be tweaks here and there. Okay, areas beyond 10 kilometer can also be notified by union government as eco-sensitive zones if they hold larger ecological importance, or you can say they are having sensitive corridors. Okay, so this is clear that if something is somewhere we have a diversity, or the ecology is basically sensitive, in that case we will be going for the notification of that particular area as a eco-sensitive zones. Okay, 10-kilometer radius, or you can say 10-kilometer area is the general rule, and when we are talking about the some special cases wherein there are certain corridors, etc., in that case government can tweak this rule. Okay, so that is about one thing. Now second, there are certain things which are we can say that why these eco-sensitive zones are created. That is very simple concept, because of the sensitivity of that particular area, or you can say the protection provided to that particular area. Okay, so they are created as a shock absorber for the protected areas to minimize the negative impact on the fragile ecosystem. Now let's see, this is the national park. Now in national park there is biodiversity, etc. We are trying to protect it, and that is why we are calling it a protected area. Okay, now we have created a eco-sensitive zone around it, that is of 10-kilometer radius. So this is your eco-sensitive zone. So we have created a buffer over here. Now this buffer is basically, you can say that it is a zone which is absorbing the shock. If something some activity is going on over here and it is having an impact in the nearby area, so this will be the area which will be absorbing the impact. Okay, so that this area, the national park area, can remain protected. Okay, so that is why we are creating eco-sensitive zones over here. They are created as a shock absorber for the protected areas to minimize the negative impact on the fragile ecosystem by the human activities, okay, which are taking place nearby. Furthermore, these areas are meant to act as a transition zone from areas required higher protection to those requiring lesser protection. Okay, so basically we are saying that this is your national park, this require higher protection. Okay, and now these are the, you can say, clusters of villages. Now these villages, are the areas which are of lesser protection. Now there can be an interaction between these two, but to avoid, negative impacts. Okay, so we are creating this zone. So if an animal is coming out of that particular area, they can wander over here and they can go back to their own zone. Okay, if a villagers are going for the, you can say, collecting some kind of forest produce, they can go up to this particular area and they can come back, because any kind of activity is not allowed in the national park, except for certain exceptions which are given. Okay, so that is why we create these eco sensitive zones. Okay, so that we can protect these national parks or protected areas which are quite sensitive. Now what are the activities which are prohibited in the eco sensitive zones? When we are talking about the buffer which we have created, that is national park and that is the buffer, in that particular area also there are certain things which are not allowed. Okay, and there are certain things which are allowed. Okay, so here you can see activities prohibited are like commercial mining, you cannot go for mining, sawmills, commercial use of wood, etc. These are prohibited in that particular area. Now permitted activities are like ongoing agriculture or the horticulture practices, rainwater harvesting, organic farming, among others. Okay, so these are certain activities which will not impact the environment to a huge aspect. Here you can say when we are talking about the mining, commercial mining or the sawmills, they will have a negative impact on the environment. So these activities are protected in the, that particular area, or you can say prohibited in that particular area. Now coming to the article again here, 3 states, Karnataka, Maharashtra and Goa. When we talk about the Western Ghats, you know that in India we have something like something like this. We have our geography. So these are the area from which we are having these Western Ghats. Okay, so these are the area. So here we have Gujarat, then we have Maharashtra, we have Goa, then we have Kerala, then we have Tamil Nadu, some part of Tamil Nadu. Now these are the states which are basically on the Western Ghats, if we see. Okay, so that is why these states like Karnataka, Maharashtra and Goa, 3 of the 6 states where the center has proposed eco-sensitive areas to protect the Western Ghats, have sought reduction in the extent of these eco-sensitive areas to allow developmental work. Okay, now we have seen that there are certain activities which are prohibited in that particular area. So if we are going for the eco-sensitive area, there are certain developmental activities which are not allowed over here. So the state might lose an area where they can go for the developmental activities, and that is why these states Karnataka, Maharashtra and Goa are saying that this area should be shrunken. Okay, now right now we have 56,825 square kilometer in the Ghats. Okay, experts panel appointed by the center, they have to draft a notification, they will tell you how much area will be notified. Okay, so this when we are talking about this particular report, that would be your fifth iteration would be there. The first iteration was happened in 2014, and this should be when we are talking about the fifth one, that is under you can say under work right now. When we are talking about the last one or the latest one, that is in 2022. Okay, now they will, this particular panel will submit this report to the environment ministry, and then they will come up with a notification. Okay, while the panel will consider the state's demand, it will stick to the principle of ecological protection and follow uniform approach. They are saying that we will consider the demands, but the thing is ultimately we will go for the environmental standards, we will go for the principle of ecological protection. Okay, this panel is headed by Sanjay Kumar. There are 6 Western Ghats states: Gujarat, Maharashtra, Goa, Karnataka, Kerala, Tamil Nadu. Okay, so we have talked about here that Gujarat, Maharashtra, then we have Karnataka over here, Goa and Kerala and Tamil Nadu. Okay, so these are the 6 states, out of which 3 are demanding that these areas should be shrunken. Okay, now when we are talking about the expert panel, they will get inputs from the important institutions like Geological Survey of India, National Institute of Hydrology, Forest Survey of India, Indian Institute of Tropical Meteorology. Okay, Karnataka, where there is a area of 20,000 or more than 20,000 square kilometer, they have proposed that they have this opposition to the K. Kasturirangan panel report, which formed the basis for the original draft. Now this report particularly becomes important, this name particularly becomes important, K. Kasturirangan panel. So they were the, this panel was the one, they have actually gone for the original draft. Okay, and they have actually suggested that there's 37% of the Western Ghat should be eco sensitive zones. Okay, so that was the recommendation of the K. Kasturirangan committee. Okay, so we have talked about the article over here. for you to remember is that there are 6 you can say states which are covering the expanse of Western Ghats, that is basically Gujarat, Maharashtra, Karnataka, Goa, Tamil Nadu and Kerala. Okay, out of which there are 3 states which are demanding that there should be shrinkage of the eco-sensitive areas so that they can go for the developmental activities, that is Maharashtra, Karnataka and Goa. Okay. Then coming to the next part, that is there is a particular panel which is deciding on the eco-sensitive areas. The original draft was created by the K. Kasturirangan committee, or you can say K. Kasturirangan panel, and they have suggested that 37% of the area of Western Ghats should be considered as the eco-sensitive zones. Okay. Other than that, we have talked about what is eco-sensitive zone, why they are made, and you can say what are the activities which are allowed or prohibited. Now moving to the further, that is Satnamis. Okay. Now, I would want you to go through this particular article, because obviously this article is more of a having a historical angle, that is static in nature. Otherwise, we will be discussing certain aspects which are important for you. When we are talking about the Satnamis, they have their origin way back, but mostly they are associated with certain people like Kabir, then Guru Ghasidas. Okay, so these are the people with which we identify this Satnamis etc. recently. Okay. Other than that, when we are talking about the origin, so origin can be traced back to the Bhakti movement. Okay. So that is also your static part. Now coming to the article, if we see, when we look at the name, that is Satnamis, true name. Okay. So they will not go for the conventional or the orthodox way of you can say idolatry etc. They will not go for the Murti Puja, if we say. Okay, so they have this wider concept of God. They see it as a single one entity. Okay, so that is Satnam. Coming to the article here, members of Satnami religious sect set fire to the office of Superintendent of Police and pelted the office of District Collector with stones in Baloda Bazar in Chhattisgarh. Okay. When we are talking about the expanse wherein these particular community or the sect is having their prominence, that is basically areas of Chhattisgarh. Okay. So that is why this particular incident has happened, and that is actually the reason we are discussing why why Satnamis matters, who are Satnamis. Okay. So here you can say they have actually gone for the stone pelting etc., and they have attacked the office of Superintendent of Police in Chhattisgarh. Okay. And that happens because after the alleged inaction over the desecration of religious site in Amar Cave in the district of that particular area. Okay, so basically there was certain resentment was there, and because of which they have gone for such activity. Now, members of the mostly scheduled caste Satnami Samaj or Satnami Panth live mainly in Chhattisgarh and the contiguous areas of Madhya Pradesh. Okay, here you can say the discredited shrine known as the Jaith Kham is located 5 kilometers from a particular village, that is Giroud village in the Baloda Bazar district. Okay, and this is basically the birthplace of Guru Ghasidas, an 18th century saint who was from Chhattisgarh. Okay, so as I told you, this particular personality is important for you, Guru Ghasidas, and he was present in the 18th century. Okay, in the Chhattisgarh area, and he his birthplace is Jaith Kham, and that is why this particular issue was there. Okay. Now, early Satnamis of the Narnaul. Narnaul is an area which is somewhere nearby Haryana. Okay. Now, here you can say Guru Ghasidas was born in 1756. In when we are talking about the sect, the history of the sect, when we are talking about the Satnamis, this was not started by the Guru Ghasidas. Okay, but the thing is, he was a follower in that particular you can say sect. It was popularized by the 15th century Bhakti poet Kabir, but likely coined earlier. So basically what we are saying, that the name Satnamis that was existing before the sect was there, but it was popularized by the Kabir and later by the Guru Ghasidas. Okay. Now Kabir rejected idolatry, okay, the Murti Puja and the orthodoxy of the organized religions. Okay, and they have gone for the Nirguna Bhakti. Nirguna Bhakti, that means that they will not be attached to a single form. Okay, so here you can say the God is formless. Again, the worship of an immanent, formless, absolute God. Okay, which he has referred as the Satnam or Satyanam. Okay. Now in when we are talking about the 1657, there was this you can say Virbhan, a person named Virbhan, who inspired by the teachings of Kabir, Satnami community in Narnaul in the present day of Haryana. As I told you, when we are talking about this community, early Satnamis were from the Narnaul. Okay, he was inspired by the Kabir, but this term was existing earlier as well. Okay, but then it was again, you can say, as a community, it was made in Narnaul. Okay, then there was certain, you can say, text by Kafi Khan. He was a person who was there in the Mughal time. Okay, Satnamis were some 4 or 5 thousand households in the Paragana of Narnaul and Mewat. Agriculture, they were mostly professing the agriculture and trade in the manner of baniyas, okay, with a small capital. Now, ritual, they did not believe in the ritual and the superstitions, they did not believe in the caste distinctions, and they had a sympathy for the poor and the hostility towards the authorities. So, basically, these are the people who were against the orthodoxy, or they were against the discrimination. Okay. Now, when we are talking about the revolt against Aurangzeb, so at that point of time, in somewhere around 1672, also there was a revolt which was happened against the atrocities of Aurangzeb. You can go through this particular story over here if you want to. Okay, otherwise it is not important for us. Now, Saki Mustad Khan has wrote something about this story in his book. That book is Masar-e-Alamgiri. You know, Alamgir was the name of the Aurangzeb, so please remember that as well. Why I have taken this article, because there are certain, you know, historical aspects which are covered over here. Like, first is from the Bhakti movement, there is this Satnamis. Now, there are 2 or 3 important personalities which are there, like Kabir is there, Guru Ghasidas is there. So, these personalities are important for you, their timeline is important for you. Then coming to the, you know, reign of Aurangzeb, okay, at that point of time certain atrocities has happened. So, that is been written by the Saki Mustad Khan, Masir Alamgiri. We have discussed this book one more earlier as well. So, that is why I would say please remember the name of this particular disease. Now, revival under the Ghasidas, after the Aurangzeb incident has happened, after the Kabir, this was revived by Guru Ghasidas. Okay. So, that is why he was like, basically here you can see the sources of Ghasidas inspiration and the spiritual development was Sant Ravidas. He was from the 15th or 16th century. Sant Ravidas to Kabir, these are all basically, you can say, people who were attached to the Bhakti movement somewhere. Okay, so they were kind of the inspiration for him. Okay, now here they are talking about the worship of one true God, that is Satnam or Satyanam. Okay, so you can go through this particular article over here. Important teachings are same. You cannot eat flesh, you cannot go for the drinking alcohol, etc. You know, they have allowed untouchable Satnamis to transcend the restrictions on the temple entry, etc. So, all these things are given over here. So, you can go through it. Now, Satnamis today, when we are talking about, so mostly they are, you know, you can say right now existing in the areas of Jharkhand, and you can say some contiguous areas of Madhya Pradesh as well. Okay, so that is about this article. From your, you know, prelims perspective, there are certain informations which I have already told you, that Kafi Khan's book, and then there is this you know, Saki Mustad Khan's book is there. These 2 personalities, that is Kabir and Guru Ghasidas, this is important. The place where he has got the you can say the birthplace or the incident which has happened over here, that is Jeth Kham. So, you can remember all these things. Now, moving further to the next article, which is related to Joshi Math, renamed as Jyotir Math. Then Koshia Kutoli, it is an area in, you can say, Nainital district, that has been named as Kenchi Dham. Okay. So, there was this demands which are you know, there when we are talking about these you know, changing the name, the locals has demanded, and the Uttarakhand government has gone for the, you can say, changing this particular name, and center has given the approval. So, now the name of the Joshi Math is Jyotir Math. This is the place where Adi Guru Shankaracharya has got his enlightenment, okay, under a kalpa tree that is called Divya Gyan Jyoti. Okay, so he has got his enlightenment over here, and that is why this area is famous. Earlier it was known as Jyotirmat, and afterwards, you know, because of some, you know, tweaks, etc., it has came to be known as Joshimat. Now we have given its original name back, or we have changed the name. Okay, then Koshia Kutoli, when we are talking about this particular area is famous for a particular saint, the you know, Neem Karoli Baba, you must have heard about him. And because of the influence, the kind of influence he has in that particular area, the name of this particular place has been changed to Kenchi Dham. This is the place where he used to reside. Okay, so here you can see It is believed that the area was originally called Jyotirmath when we are talking about the Joshi Dham over here. After Adiguru Shankaracharya visited in the 8th century to perform penance under the Amar Kalp tree and attained enlightenment, Divyagyan Jyoti, over time it has came to be known as Joshimath. Okay. So we have given its old name back. When we are talking about this particular area in Nainital, that is Koshia Kutoli. Okay, Sri Kanchi Dham Tehsil after Baba Neem Karoli Maharaj ashram is there, so that is why it is famous, and we have given the name Kanchi Dham. Okay, this from this particular article, what is the key takeaway here is that the Guru Adi Shankaracharya, when we are talking about, he has gotten his enlightenment over here, that is Divya Gyan Jyoti in Joshimath, okay, or the Jyotirmath. Now, why it is important? Because you know that the areas where Buddha got his enlightenment, the Mahavir got his enlightenment, these are basic areas which you know. Okay. After that, recently you must have heard about Vivekanand's place of enlightenment. Okay, that is in Kanyakumari. Vivekanand Rock, Kanyakumari. Okay, so that was also in news because our Prime Minister has gone for a visit over there. So that is why these important personalities who has got their enlightenment, that becomes important. They might ask you someday. Now moving further, nitrous oxide emission up to 40% in 40 years, mostly from farms, says the study. Now when we are talking about the nitrous oxide, that is N2O. Okay, this is having a high potential of warming than carbon dioxide and methane. Okay, so it is having a highest potential of global warming, that is why it is more dangerous. And when we are talking about the last few years, 1980 to 2020, what we have witnessed that there has been the increase in the 40%. Okay, now if we want to keep our temperature change restricted to not more than 2%, 2 degrees Celsius. So we have to make sure that we go for the reduction in the nitrous oxide emissions. When we are talking about the nitrous oxide emissions, there are top 5 countries which are actually maximum emitters. One is China, second is India, third is USA, fourth is Brazil, fifth is Russia. Okay, but when we are talking about here, we are second when we are talking about the volume. Okay, so we are the second largest emitter of nitrous oxide, but when we are talking about the per capita is minimum in India. Okay, so that is a good thing, but again we have to make sure that we should not go for the emission of the nitrous oxide. Okay, now what is important for here is that is discussed over here. Now agriculture production and the livestock rearing is basically the highest emitters when we are talking about the nitrous oxide. Nitrous oxide is a compound of nitrogen, also known as the laughing gas. It is having 273 times more potent than the carbon dioxide in causing global warming, okay, over a period of 100 years. This particular paragraph is quite important for you. You can make a note of it. Okay, it has having a depleting effect on the ozone layer that is there in the stratosphere. When we are talking about ozone has dual personality, you can say. In stratosphere, when we are talking about ozone in stratosphere, it is a good thing, or you can say having a positive impact. Okay, because that will protect us from the ultraviolet rays. Okay, but when we are talking about the ozone in troposphere, okay, that is detrimental for us. It is having a negative impact. It is a greenhouse gas. Okay, so that you can remember. Then we are talking about this nitrous oxide. Nitrous oxide ultimately harms the ozone layer. So there, that is one thing. Okay, IPCC, the panel of when we are talking about the intergovernmental panel on the climate change, they have actually estimated that in 2022 nitrous oxide comprised around 6% of the total greenhouse gas emissions from the anthropogenic activities. Okay, if you can remember the data, it's okay, otherwise it's not necessary. 74% of the total anthropogenic nitrous oxide comes in the last decade from the agriculture production. Okay, so that is the kind of impact it has. Agriculture production, why? Because we are using fertilizers. Fertilizer has a a component of you can say N, P, K, sulfur, etc. But nitrogen is more prominently used. Okay, when we are talking about the countries like USA, when we are talking about countries like India, they are using fertilizers. Mostly in India we use urea. Okay, and that is why we are having such emissions. Okay, that is there. Nitrous oxide emissions from the human activities must decline in order to limit the global temperature rise to 2 degrees Celsius as established by the Paris Agreement. This statement is also important for you, okay, because they are talking about the Paris Agreement and the target which was set in the Paris Agreement. Okay, reducing nitrous oxide emissions is the only solution at this point, because we don't know how to, you can say, remove nitrous oxide from the atmosphere. When we are talking about the carbon dioxide, we have come up with the carbon sequestration, carbon storage, etc. But when we are talking about the nitrous oxide, we don't have such technologies yet. Okay, so that is about this. Now moving further, for your own read, there is this article, how SpaceX Starship could revolutionize the space travel and the exploration. Since it is a private firm, so that is why I have not gone into the detail of this particular article, but for your own information, for your own interest, you can go through this article. Okay. Now second article is basically like people, elephants call each other by name. Okay. Now the thing is, why I have taken this particular article, because they will not ask you much things about it, but recently in prelims UPSC has come up with the trend wherein they are talking about the behavioral aspects of the animals. Okay, the kind of animal which are living in a group. Okay, they have talked about the honeybees, they have talked about the you can say orangutan. Okay, so a particular species, or you can say animal which can utilize their hands or the fingers for the tweaking the woods, etc. Okay, so all these things they have been asking in the UPSC examination in the last 3 to 4 years. It has been seen that at least one question will be there with respect to that. Okay, so here elephants like people can call each other by name. So this sounds interesting. You can go through this particular article as well. Okay, now last part, that is basically a practice question for you. Which of the following benefits are not available to the Agniveers? We have talked about the Agnipath scheme. So here they are asking you which of the following benefits are not given to the Agniveers: pension, gratuity, Seva Nidhi, both A and B. Okay, so you can attempt this question and answer in the comment box. With that, I would like to take your leave. I'll see you in the next episode. Till then, have a good day. Thank you.